Boy howdy buckaroos, buckle up for this bad boy, it's the Community Dialogue. I'm your host Brandon, and on today's show, we'll be having a conversation about music and digital media. This conversation will include the ways that music is made, the ways that it's heard, and how advancements in technology have made it more accessible for artists to establish themselves. Just as music videos on MTV became a step up to radio, the internet and digital communications technology have changed the way that we approach music. Digital audio workstations have made music production more accessible than ever. Whereas in the past, artists would have to pay for studio time and rely on record labels to produce their work, anyone with an access to a microphone and a computer has the ability to make their own home studio. Upcoming artists can also create their own publicity or clout with the power of their smartphones and social media accounts. Similarly, online distribution has become the main way that people go about discovering new music. Just last year, streaming services such as Spotify and Apple Music reached over 900 billion audio streams, according to Nielsen's year-end report. Today, we'll be joined by a panel of local artists, producers, and experts to discuss their experiences in recording, producing, and distributing music in the internet age. Join me today on today's episode of the Community Dialogue. Welcome back to the Community Dialogue. Today's panel includes a group of artists, starting with Latina hip-hop artist Anna Mays, Chris Joyce, the lead singer of Idle Minds, and Owen Edwards, the singer of the Triple Backfoot Committee. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Pretty good.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.
Absolutely. Got a couple questions for you guys. First off, how do you think that digital media has made it easier for artists to establish themselves?
I feel like it's a little bit more easier just because everything is right in front of you. You know what I mean? All you need is a computer and just yourself. Like if it's something that you don't know how to do, you can literally just look it up and figure it out yourself.
Right. YouTube is a blessing.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, like it puts the artist closer to the people that are actually like listening to their songs, and they don't feel like there's some like celebrity entity that is super separated from them. I think, you know, it gives people more incentive to like be, you know, into your career or whatever, you know, like follow your progress. And yeah, I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that closeness between the artist and the fans. It can make it more intimate for sure. And it's more direct as well. You know, if you're releasing tour date, you send it right there. If you have your fans on an email list, you can send that directly to them, merchandising, etc. Traditionally, you had, you know, this classical idea of, like, you know, rock stars and etc. And you still have that. It was almost like it's like this godly figure, like performing like this music. But now, you know, you see them as a person because you're following their social media, and you get the perception of closeness with them. So
Yeah.
It's a much more personal interaction rather than just watching somebody on TV. You're actually sort of seeing into their day-to-day lives. You know, you can follow them, and essentially they could even follow you back. So there's that extra level there. And speaking of that closeness, social media, a lot of today's like musical artists, they become famous just because they're viral on social media, you know, Twitter, Instagram, things like that. It's a kind of a quick route to getting mainstream fame. How do you guys use social media to interact with your fans?
Well, for me, you know, I'm a hip hop artist and I've been doing music for a while. So just being part of the evolution with social media, I think it's great. You know, it allows me to share my music with my fans via Instagram. And that's something as like putting a little snippet of a music video, which I can then tie into, hey, here's a link in my bio if you want to watch the rest of it. So it's a circle.
Right.
So
Yeah, I know with us, with my band, we've actually made like legitimate friends out of like people that follow our band on Facebook and stuff like that. So it's like, I think it really helps like with people being invested in like what your band's doing. So like, you know, you reach out to these people and like they're like, you're able to see like what you're doing at band practice or whatever, you know, like we're always posting stuff that like unfinished songs and songs that like we're starting and like when they sound like train wrecks, that's the best time to like post it.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah, because like they're a part of the process, like
Yeah.
from the very beginning till the final product, and I think
Yeah.
that's really beautiful.
Well, the rise of social media, as an entity, you can craft your own persona. You know, your image on social media it can be entirely individual. You can follow a trend. You can create your own trend. You can be anything, and you can find your own market. So I think that's really beneficial. You still have that concept of intimacy, you know, existing.
Yeah, and with that sort of creating your own brand, as it were, it does kind of make it easier than ever before for kind of anyone to go out and start making music, start building a following. How do you think that's like impacted the way that music works?
Really good question. You know what? I feel like branding and music have always been important, you know, with artists. But I do feel like with social media, everything becoming so visual based,
Right.
I feel like that's become a little bit more important than the actual music, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I understand.
Like the aesthetic of it all.
Yeah, like the vibe, everything. Crazy.
I don't know, coming from a punk rock background, I love the idea of like just taking control of your own, you know, music and not having anybody else telling you like, oh, you're supposed to be like this or, you know, just being able to be like, this is what we are, like, this is the road that we're gonna go down, like success or failure, like it's all on you, like it's the best, man. Like it's great that like, you know, the major record labels and stuff are kind of like taking a back seat to like people just doing it themselves. I mean, yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Well, again, it's filling that gap between the artist and the audience because a member of the audience can be inspired by the artist and they can get on social media, start advertising their music, creating what they want to create. And so everyone's kind of getting on this same level almost. They're only differentiated by the number of followers or the number of streams. And so music and art is in the hands of anyone, really.
Right. I think it sort of allows you to create your own form of success. There's not anyone above you kind of telling you, you have to meet this quota, you have to sell this many tracks, you have to do all this. You sort of get a lot more freedom in what it is you're making, how you're making it, and who's seeing it can kind of influence the process. You have a much more in-depth view of how you're going to market, how you're going to do all this stuff. So you don't need as much guidance in that way.
It's also made networking a lot better between bands, between artists. If you want to interact with an artist, there's no guarantee they'll respond.
Right.
But you could send, I don't know, somebody really famous, you can just send them a DM.
Yeah.
You can interact with them hypothetically. So
Yeah, and I mean, like, we just booked our own tour, like, straight off Facebook. I mean, just reaching out to other bands, being like, hey, we're coming to your area, you want to play with us? Like, I mean, we even booked, like, Mondays and Tuesdays by doing that. So, you know, going directly to clubs, that's going to be a lot harder, like, filling those days. But, yeah, I mean, being able to connect to bands, like, across the country, and then you have shows set up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great.
I feel like you also save a lot more time, and you save a lot more money as well. You know, back in the day, you would have to like literally hit the streets. You would have to like, you know, make a bunch of CDs, posters, you know, and just hit that groundwork. But it's like nowadays, everything being on the internet, you can just do it in 5 minutes, and it'll go a longer way for free.
And do you think that's affected things like, you know, a lot of bands got started with like busking and stuff like that, playing on street corners. Do you think that's like had a major effect? Do you think people are going to kind of stop doing that in years to come? Or do you think people are just going to do it because they like it?
I mean, we're in DC, like really close to DC, where like street musicians are like on every corner. I don't know. Like once it's that ingrained in like an area, I don't think you get rid of that.
Just part of the culture.
Yeah, it's like really entertaining. I don't know. I like it. I wouldn't want to see it go.
Okay. Now, streaming as well. That's become kind of the main avenue for people to get their music. I know I get most of my music off YouTube. A lot of people use Spotify and stuff like that. do you think that like really affects the way that people see live music? Do you think they're going to do it less? Do you think they're going to do it more? Do you think they're going to pay for albums more? How do you think that's going to work out?
Well, I know streaming, it definitely has downfalls. I know that the payment that artists receive from streaming is not always, it's not always fair. And so, and it also makes, you know, the judgment of success a little bit more complicated. Like, how do we incorporate streams into what makes a platinum record, etc. But overall, I would say it's beneficial because, again, you have this art given to the people, more direct access, and anyone can have it. Anyone can experience the beauty of music and be inspired.
Yeah, I think it's great that it gets out there. I know for me personally, it kind of changed how I listen to music. I mean, like, I usually just stream like when it's like albums that I know already. But like, you know, the first time that I listen to something new, like I kind of want to put it on, like whether it's a record or a CD or something like that. Like actually take the time to sit down and like digest like what I'm listening to. Which streaming, it kind of doesn't do that. Like it always tends to go to like background noise for me. So, you know, whether you're in the car driving around or something like that, convenient, help me find like new different bands and artists and stuff. But, you know, kind of like watered down the experience of listening to music,
Yeah,
which is kind of a bummer.
definitely. I feel like with streaming, it being so easily accessible, we just get tired of it quickly, you know, because it's like, oh, well, I already have that. I'm ready for the next thing. I'm ready for the next single, for the next toy. Like, even with me, it's pretty crazy because I remember back in the day, you know, artists would drop singles and that song would last 6 months. And it's just like now I'll drop a single and 2 weeks go by and people just want new music already. And I'm just like, wow, like I just dropped it. Like, let that digest. It's crazy.
The sort of a byproduct of the streaming is a pressure to create more and more music.
For sure. Because there's always new music every single day from everywhere. It's just all there.
Do you think that streaming and like that pressure to make more music, do you think that translates into, you know, doing more shows? Do you think that would actually like have an effect on people's opinion?
As I've seen it. So I think there is a relationship between number of streams, number of followers, and shows. On one hand, you know, booking gigs, as they say, it involves a lot more of the networking aspect, which can be just a totally different ball game.
Yeah.
One of those. And so, but I do notice that as you play more shows, you get more streams, you get more followers. So there's definitely a relationship there. And I think having a number assigned to your success, so to speak, like on social media, you have your followers, you have your streams, etc. That can, when somebody sees that, they see that as a measure of success. So they might be more likely to want to listen to you or associate with you.
It's like being verified on Twitter or Instagram. Like that can really change your career now. Like social media, streams and stuff like that, kind of changing the game in the way that people monitor success. You know, platinum records don't mean quite as much, I don't think, as much as like being verified does.
And it's odd because it's like an arbitrary assignment of numbers, but it means something more now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it actually affects people coming out to shows. I think it's more like you said, where it kind of works the opposite way. If they're willing to come out to a show, then that'll kind of kick up your numbers for them checking it out, streaming and stuff. But I mean, there's a lot of people that just sit at their computer and listen to something and then like never actually go make it out to a show.
Yeah.
I mean, just go to any local show where there's 5 people out there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, what I would say about streaming is that you're able to see who streams from where. And so if, you know, you want to take it to that next level where you know, create your own tours, you know your market because you know like what city is listening to you the most. So you can go ahead and take that next step. There's also what I'm starting to notice is live streaming. Like people are able to watch performances like on their computer, on their cell phones. And for me, I feel like that ruins the experience. But what is?
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. But before we continue, would you like to plug anything? Do you have any projects coming up?
What's good, everybody? It's your girl, Anna Mays. That's Anna with 2 N's, MVZE. I'll be dropping a whole lot of new music this year, so stay tuned. Follow me everywhere. That's Anna Mays with 2 N's, MVZE.
We got a tour coming up, going out to Chicago and back. Now put me on the spot. I don't know the dates and all that stuff on the top of my head. But it's at the end of this month, so anybody that's in Chicago watching this, hey.
My band, Triple Backflip Committee, plays a lot around the DMV area. We're from Maryland. We've got music on Spotify, Apple Music. We're working on more right now. We're recording a new thingy. And yeah, you can find us on social media if you just look up Triple Backflip Committee. You can't forget it.
Alrighty. Well, thank you all again for participating in the show, and we'll be right back after this short break.
In the United States, a car is stolen every 45 seconds. 60% of vehicles stolen were left unlocked. 50% of vehicles stolen had the keys inside the vehicle. You don't have to turn back time to prevent vehicle theft.
This message sponsored by the Maryland State Police, the Maryland Vehicle Theft Prevention Council, and the Maryland D.C. Anti-Car Theft Committee.
The St. Mary's River is the last tributary to enter the Potomac River from the north. It is fed largely by natural springs and rain runoff from fields, farms, and homes, a 72 square mile area of watershed. It is home to hundreds of types of plants, animals, and birds. Nearly everything we do on land has potential to pollute the river. The waters of the St. Mary's River are filtered naturally by a native oyster population. The number of oysters in the river today is less than 1% of what it was in colonial days. The St. Mary's River Watershed Association has built and maintains an oyster reef to help sustain the native oyster population in the river. You can help. Advocate for clean water. Return oyster shells to the river. Pick up pet waste and put it in the trash. Get involved at the local level. For information, go to smrwa.org or call 301-904-2387.
Welcome back. So in the first half of our program, we had a conversation with a group of musicians. Now, joining me for our next segment are producers of music who have experience with production, marketing, and the more technical side of music. Please welcome to the program digital media expert Edgar Ramiro and producer Mark Henry. And welcome back to the program, Chris Joyce. All right, how are you guys doing today?
Doing good, man.
Pretty good.
Great.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So, to start off, kind of hearkening back to the first half of the program, we talked about how social media influences everything and how that's kind of changed the game of music. How do you think that digital marketing has affected things on your end?
As far as digital marketing affecting the music industry, digital marketing is pretty much digital assets, digital content, digital medias, and marketing that towards an audience. And that has become so much easier to do. So you have a much more easier connection between artists and audience. So that's definitely changing the industry for independent artists specifically.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot easier for like the younger artists that are kind of like growing up in the digital age.
Right.
But like it's harder for like artists and record labels and stuff from like back in the day having to do the transition.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of people aren't keeping up, but I mean, it's like, this is a lot going on.
Yeah.
It takes out the middleman that I think they've proven that like they don't really need them anymore. The major labels, everybody can take control over every aspect of their music, and it just makes it more streamlined to get straight out to the people. And then you can find your niche audience and kind of focus in on that instead of, everybody's not going to like every song that comes out. So you can definitely like streamline to the people that, respond to your music.
So there's a lot more one-on-one interaction between the creators and the listeners. Now, you talked about the finding your niche audience, like kind of targeting that. Now, do you find that helpful for like gaining a base? Or how does that affect expanding your audience as well?
Yeah, I think it does. You have, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I think, it does help you build a base.
Right.
You can find more people that will spread your music to people that they know will like it as well. So it's not like it takes away you having to do all the work as well. Word of mouth is a big deal in social media. People are always watching what other people like, so it kind of cues people to be like, well, I know this guy likes a lot of the same stuff that I do. When he likes this, I might check it out. And I think it does help with word of mouth. It's probably faster than the old labels used to be.
Hmm. So you sort of have like an insured part of your audience, and they're going to take over some of the marketing for you.
Exactly.
Essentially.
Pretty much the moment that you push out a piece of content is the moment that it just spreads. And that's the most important part of creating content for your social media.
The more viral element of things.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're also able to look at like analytics and stuff and like really like narrow it down. So it's like all the information is like there, like right in your phone.
Right. You can kind of figure out who exactly is listening, who you should be marketing towards, and kind of figure out where to go from there. And now, Mark, you did say something about how the old record labels and stuff like that had to kind of adapt. How do you think that's affecting, people going towards record labels? Do you think they're going to kind of stop doing that in the future, or at least less so?
I mean, I don't think they're going to stop doing it in the future. I think that a lot of people have already stopped. I mean, there's certain things that you might need from a record label, like you might have everything as far as like marketing, like the music, the distribution and everything, but when it comes to actually like blowing a record up, like the label might be able to help you with like a budget or like different connections like radio or like, I don't know, my mind's drawing a blank, but like just different things.
Yeah, I think you did a good job.
I think those labels too, they know that they're kind of outdated.
Right.
I mean, if you look at like what a record deal looks like now, it's like completely different than what it used to look like. Like they want revenue from your live shows and stuff, at least with the majors. They just like, they're not dependent on just record sales anymore. They want like your merch money. They want all that stuff. I mean, artists are starting to get to the point where they figured out they can do it better themselves and not need these old dinosaur record labels.
Okay. And now on the merch side of things, is pushing your own, other than music, your own other projects and products, is that a big part of finding success nowadays?
So I think that in order for an artist to succeed in this digital age, they need to focus on these three words. Content is king. Because the moment that you push out content, whether it's for whatever project that it may be, you need eyes to continually be on you, because you can convert that audience into a buyer, and that's the most important part as an artist.
Okay, so it's not just actual physical capital, but it's social capital as well, kind of leading into it.
Exactly.
Okay, so again, we asked this in the first section. Do you, as creators, as the producing side of it, do you feel like more of a pressure to keep pushing more and more things in more and more avenues?
I mean, I've definitely felt the pressure of that, being that there's this big world of people on like Instagram, for example. It's like you feel the pressure sometimes of like having to keep up. Let's say like you're posting for like 2 weeks and you're getting like 10,000 likes, and then you post on a random Monday, you get like 7 likes. And you're just like, yo, like what's going on? You might lose your mind or something.
Right.
But it's like because they have all these different algorithms and stuff going on in the social media. Like Instagram shut down the other day, and it's like, why?
Yeah.
People going crazy for 10 hours, and then when it comes back, everybody's making videos like, hey, we back, we live, baby.
Yeah.
Like, it's stupid, bro. It's stupid.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a huge pressure amongst creatives to continue pushing out work because it's easy to be left behind if you're not pushing something out, because technology is so much more accessible now. You can literally shoot a music video in a day and push it out the next day. That's how it's become so much easier. And if you're not doing that for your own work, you're going to get left behind.
Now, what's the kind of importance of finding different avenues? So it used to be sort of in the early 2000s into the early 2010s, the big thing was like, sure, find a platform like YouTube or something like that, but also have a backup, like create your own website, something like that. Is that still kind of important nowadays, or is it just go on the different streaming services, go on the different social medias, or do you still want that place that is fully your own?
I think you have to look at yourself if you're an artist, you have to look at yourself as a business at the end of the day, because you got to make money.
Right.
So as long as you have those eyes on you, you convert those eyes into buyers and you stay in business. And pretty much you need gas to continue going. So, if you're only making money off of music, well, that's great. But an artist has so many avenues that they can go to.
Right.
Streaming, YouTube, ad revenue, a website platform, Facebook. I mean, there's so many ways to make money as an artist. But yeah, that's kind of like my take on that.
Okay.
I don't think there's any one beaten path either. You got to like figure out what works for you and your music. What's the most effective way to get it to people that, respond to it. It's all about trial and error. Like you figure out what works, and then you don't waste your time on the stuff that doesn't work.
Pretty much.
That's a lot to keep track of. For people who are like getting new to it, getting into the business, are there any like really good ways to start figuring it out? I know YouTube has like a lot of tutorials and stuff like that, but how would you recommend somebody get into the game?
The what game?
Like the actual like content creation game, getting their stuff noticed.
I mean, I think they would have to figure out who they are first. Like figure out your identity, like really look at what type of music you're making, how do you want it to sound, how do you want it to look, and start building, like based on how it sounds and how you want it to look, start building on that, like figure out what type of pictures you want, videos. I mean, there's a lot of people, networking with people also.
Right.
Like finding different like visual artists, like videographers, photographers. They can really bring out like whatever's in your mind. They can like bring it to life like in a picture or video.
So I definitely believe that if you want to be part of the music industry, you got to get yourself involved in the music industry. And that's going out to networking events, meeting other artists, meeting producers, because I kind of like see it as it's not about how good your music is. It's more so about who you know, pretty much.
Okay. Chris, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I play in a band, so I say go out to shows. You meet audience members, you meet other bands. Networking is really important, and it's great to network. Like in the scene, like be a part of it. You don't really want to do it from the outside. So.
Okay. Yeah. So kind of finding yourself and actually putting the work in, like going for it. Well, all right. That's our time for now. So thank you again for participating in the conversation tonight and giving us some insight into the music industry and into the internet age. I've been your host, Brandon Igo, and this was the Community Dialogue.